Welcome to Pisto's world of stories. The town had never seen anything like it. On a stormy night, 20 years ago, the cries of not one, not two, but 5 newborn boys echoed through the hospital halls. Identical faces, tiny fists, and the same sharp wails stunned the doctors and nurses. They were the quintuplets Ethan, Noah, Caleb, Daniel, and Liam. Their parents, David and Helena, couldn't believe their eyes. The boys were miracles, each one a mirror of the other. From the moment they could walk, their bond was unbreakable. They were raised as if they were one soul split into 5 bodies. At school, teachers struggled to tell them apart. Sometimes, even their closest friends mixed up their names. Yet despite their identical looks, their personalities began to bloom like different branches from the same root. Ethan was brave, Noah was quiet, Caleb was gentle, Daniel was sharp-minded, and Liam was fiery. Now, at the age of 20 and 19, the brothers were the pride of their family and the mystery of their community. People often stared when the 5 young men walked together through the marketplace. They looked like ghosts reflecting one another. But to the brothers, it was simply life. To them, nothing was strange about having 5 of the same face. What none of them knew, however, was that their family portrait was incomplete. For while they lived together in laughter, arguments, and brotherly love, a 6th shadow walked somewhere else in the world. A shadow with the same face, the same blood, but a heart hardened by secrets. A shadow named Gabriel. Ethan often said they were one heart beating in 5 bodies. The brothers grew up side by side, never apart for too long. At 20, Ethan, Noah, and Liam were the older 3 by a year. 19-year-old Daniel and Caleb were the youngest, though all 5 looked identical, with sharp jawlines, brown hair, and piercing eyes. At school, their presence was overwhelming. "The clones are here," classmates would whisper. Sometimes, the brothers used their identical looks to play pranks, swapping seats during tests or confusing their teachers. But beyond the jokes, their unity was their strength. When one was in trouble, the others came running. Despite their similarities, the brothers were individuals. Ethan was the bold leader, often dragging the others into adventures. Noah was observant, quietly studying people and situations before speaking. Caleb was soft-hearted, often caught in his emotions. Daniel was sharp, a thinker who always wanted answers. Liam was restless, quick to anger but just as quick to laugh. It was this balance that made them complete, or so they thought. For years, whispers followed them. Strangers stared too long, relatives hesitated before speaking, and sometimes, in moments of silence, even their mother's eyes held a sadness she never explained. A sadness that would soon unravel everything they believed about themselves. It began one ordinary evening. Rain tapped against the windows while the brothers sat in the living room, bickering over a card game. Their mother's voice drifted from the kitchen. "Dinner's ready. All 6 of you, come now," she called. The words were soft, almost swallowed by the thunder. But Daniel heard them. He froze, his card slipping from his hand. "Did you guys hear that?" he whispered. "Hear what?" Liam muttered, not looking up. "She said 6, Daniel insisted. "She called 6 of us." Caleb frowned, his gentle eyes narrowing. "No, maybe she just said it fast. You misheard." But Daniel shook his head. His mind replayed the words over and over. "All 6 of you." There were only 5 of them. Always 5. His heart thudded with unease. For the first time in 19 years, he wondered if their family held a secret none of them were supposed to uncover. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The storm outside rattled the windows, but it was his mother's voice echoing in his head that kept him awake. Finally, he slipped from his bed and whispered to Ethan, who shared the room with him. "Ethan, what if Mom really said 6? Daniel asked. Ethan, half asleep, groaned. "You're overthinking, Danny. Go back to sleep." But the next morning, the doubt grew heavier. During breakfast, Daniel studied his mother. Her tired eyes, the way she avoided their stares. Noah noticed it too. "Mom," Noah asked carefully, "you okay?" Helena forced a smile. "Of course, sweetheart." Yet when she set the plates down, her hands trembled. The brothers exchanged glances. Something was wrong. Something their parents were hiding. And once suspicion had taken root, it would only grow. A week later, their search for answers began. Daniel's curiosity spread like fire to the others. One evening, while their parents were out, the 5 brothers sneaked into the attic. Dust swirled in the dim light as they dug through old boxes, birth certificates, and photographs. Then Ethan found it, a torn piece of paper hidden inside a folder. His breath caught as he read the names aloud. Ethan, Noah, Caleb, Daniel, Liam, Gabriel. The room fell silent. The paper shook in his hands. Gabriel? Caleb whispered. Who's Gabriel? Noah's voice was low, steady. His, one of us. Daniel's stomach dropped. The 6th name wasn't a mistake. Their mother's slip of the tongue wasn't imagination. There was another. A 6th brother. Somewhere out there, a mirror of their faces walked alone. And with that discovery, their perfect world cracked. Nothing would ever be the same again. The brothers stormed into the living room that night, the torn paper clutched in Ethan's hand. Their parents looked up in shock as 5 pairs of identical eyes bore into them. Mom. Dad, Ethan said, his voice tight. Who is Gabriel? The room froze. Helena's face paled, her hands trembling. David's eyes darkened, as though he had carried this weight for too long. Caleb's soft voice broke the silence. Tell us the truth. Please. Helena sank into a chair, tears forming. You weren't supposed to find out this way. Gabriel, he's your brother. Your twin. Your blood. But when you were born, something terrible happened. Helena's voice trembled as she explained. When you were born, the hospital was overwhelmed. So many nurses, so much confusion. Gabriel was taken from us. Switched. We were told he didn't survive. But months later, we learned he had been given to another family. The brothers were stunned. Daniel clenched his fists. So, you knew? You knew all this time? David spoke at last, his deep voice heavy with guilt. We tried to find him. We hired investigators. But the trail went cold. And by then, you boys were growing up. We didn't want to burden you with grief. Liam's voice was sharp, anger burning in his chest. So you just replaced him? Pretended nothing happened? No. Helena cried. Not replaced. Never. We prayed for him every day. The 5 brothers exchanged looks, anger, confusion, sorrow. The truth was out, but the wound was only beginning to open. The days that followed were tense. The once lively house was quiet, filled with unspoken questions. The brothers avoided their parents, speaking only to one another. Ethan slammed his fist against the wall one night. They lied to us for 20 years. Caleb shook his head. They didn't lie. They were afraid. They thought they were protecting us. Noah, calm as ever, leaned back. What matters now is Gabriel. He's out there. We can't just ignore that. Daniel adjusted his glasses, voice low. If he's alive, we have to find him. But are we ready for what we'll discover? The rift between parents and children widened, but within the brothers, a new mission took root, the search for Gabriel. Strange things began to happen. Caleb dreamed of a boy with his face, standing alone in the rain. Noah, at the marketplace, thought he saw someone who looked just like them vanish into the crowd. It was as if Gabriel's presence was haunting them, calling to them. One evening, Liam whispered, maybe he's looking for us too. Ethan shook his head. Then we'll find him first. The brothers pooled their savings, searching records, old reports, and abandoned addresses. Slowly, a trail began to form, a clue here, a name there. Until one day, Daniel held up a photograph from a file they uncovered. It was him. Gabriel. 19 years old, identical to them, but with eyes colder than ice. The 5 brothers set out, their hearts pounding with fear and excitement. They traveled across town, chasing the address linked to Gabriel. At last, in a crowded marketplace, Ethan froze. Standing across the street was a young man with the same sharp jawline, the same piercing eyes. Their mirror. Their blood. Gabriel, Ethan whispered. The boy turned. Confusion, Shock, then bitterness crossed his face. "You finally found me," Gabriel said, his voice low. "But tell me, why should I care?" For the first time in 20 years, the brothers were together. But this reunion wasn't filled with joy, it was charged with anger, pain, and questions that would decide the fate of their family.